Chapter 14, Jacob. The first code breakers at Bletchley Park came to shoot pheasant. That was the cover story, anyway. This was back in September 1938, well before I knew the place existed. A few dozen men and women from the government code and cipher school gathered for a sort of dress rehearsal. Of course, local folks noticed all these professor types showing up, so the GC and CS spread the tale that the crowd at Bletchley Park was Captain Ridley's shooting party, just your typical boring gathering of posh ladies and gents. To what extent did this fool the town? Hard to say. In any case, the codebreakers went home soon enough and didn't return until it was obvious that Hitler was about to start a world war. Now the park's expanding fast. There are a few hundred of us here, and we've long since run out of the workspace into the mansion. Crews have hammered up long wooden huts on the lawn, which with more in progress, and they're adding brick walls around the huts, bit of shelter from German bombs, should they find us here. I'm with Gordon Welchman in Hut 6. Our team's job is to attack Germany's Army and Air Force ciphers. Welchman's got us working in 8-hour shifts round the clock. Guess who's on midnight to 8 a.m.? As I approach the building, a few men and women from the 4 to midnight shift step out into the drizzle. Their exhausted, irritated faces say it all. No breakthroughs. The crisis continues. I walk down the narrow hallway that runs down the center of the hut, my shoes leaving puddles on the wooden floor. Small rooms line the hall on either side, all with the same black drapes. Over the windows, the same dim lamps with green shades. The place smells damp, rain, and sweat. Through the open door, I see Welchman at his desk, slumped in his chair, pencil in hand, unlit pipe in his mouth, surrounded by slips of paper, many of them crumpled up. Another Cambridge mathematician, Alan Turing, reclines in a chair with his feet up on a wooden table, staring at the ceiling. He mainly works on naval codes, but sometimes stops in to swap ideas with Welchman. Turing's in his late 20s, thick black hair neatly parted and big warm eyes. He's got his quirks, chains his tea mug to the radiator by his desk, wears a tie for a belt, and rides a rickety bicycle along country lanes while wearing a gas mask. But the man's a genius. People use that word as a synonym for great intelligence, but that's not what I mean. Speak with very intelligent people and you may be impressed. You may even be amazed, but you can follow their train of thought. You can see where their ideas come from. It's not that way with a genius. It's not that way with Turing. He's got this theory that any cipher written by a machine can be broken by a machine. He's testing an electronic gadget over in Hut 1, an ingenious invention by all accounts, only it doesn't work yet. Sounds like we're getting more help, I say. Huh, Welchman grunts. He looks at me with puffy eyes. Is it midnight already? The colonel told me, I say. New brains from Cambridge? Supposed to give some sort of orientation tomorrow? Right, that's right. I don't know what to say. Keep it simple, Novus. Very clever people tend to skip the basics, Welchman laughs. I just had to help the prof here with long division. I never learned basic arithmetic, Turing says. Your teacher taught it, Welchman says. You just weren't paying attention. Turing smiles. That sounds plausible. I've heard the stories, Welchman says. Reading Einstein instead of doing your homework, you missed the easy stuff. That's the thing, I say. This is easy. It's such a simple idea. I take a sheet from the tray on Welchman's desk. Thin paper with handwritten groups of letters. YMJ, WJ, FWJ, AF, etc. And a few more lines like that. An intercepted German message. The blocks of 5 letters we figure make the text easier for telegraph operators to send and receive, and harder for us to read. That's something code makers figured out centuries ago. Remove the spaces between words and the message looks jumbled. Now, do you see what I mean? But this is no real hindrance, just takes a bit of practice. We know the Germans are using a substitution cipher. Each letter at the original German message can be replaced by another letter. That's it. A 2,000-year-old idea. So why can't we read the messages, I ask? Sorry, stupid question. Turing staring at the ceiling. They say there are no stupid questions. I've heard a few, Welchman says, but who knows? Maybe that's what we need. He turns to me. The whole country is depending on us, Novus, even if they don't know who we are. We need new ideas, and we need them now. Chapter 15, Lizzie. My stomach pokes with the reminder that a fossilized scone does not qualify as nourishment. I climb from beneath the thick quilt and dress quickly. I must figure out a way to open Willa's calendar diary. As I part the curtains, early morning sun spills through the window, spreading warm light across the knotty plank floor. The sloped ceiling gives the room the appearance of a triangle. My brother's books and newspapers litter the narrow space. He needs a bookshelf. Jacob left at midnight. What sort of work can begin at midnight? Report to the park and ask for Commander Bradley. He will provide further information and orders. Those were the colonel's final instructions. I make my way down the stairs. As I reach the stooped archway in the pub, I notice a small door tucked into an alcove. Instead of a doorknob, it has a large metal hasp with a hefty padlock. Perhaps the ale and wine cupboard? Colin sits in the pub, a wrinkled map spread out before him. He stretches, scratching his sandy brown hair. Morning, Lizzie. Morning, Colin. Plotting a journey? Wouldn't be that grand, no, trying to figure out which airfield my brother Simon has been sent to. I'd wager RAF Kenley. Where's that? It's here, says Colin, pointing to a dot south of London. And where are we? I asked. Bletchley's here. Colin slides his finger northwest. I see, I say quietly. Far enough in the country to be out of the way. Yes, but still conveniently close to London. Interesting, isn't it? He runs his finger back and forth along the train route. You're still hungry, I imagine? Famished. Mom, Lizzie's awake and she's hungry, he yells to no one I can see. I was here first, the man with the spongy face bellows from a stool at the bar. Yeah, you're always here, Mr. Barrycloth. But a good gent would say, ladies first, wouldn't he? Quips Colin. He shakes his head and rolls his eyes. So how long will you be investigating here at the Mutton, he asks. I have no idea. Jacob didn't say. Did you leave a lot of friends and family back home? Most were evacuated when our school was closed. Our housekeeper, Viola, went to Wales, and I was supposed to go to America to stay with my Gram. You mentioned that last night. Why didn't you go? Well, Gram's what they call a big personality. She has many notions and potions. My father died when I was an infant, and Grant's been very involved ever since. I don't want to be subjected to her lectures, forced to drink slimy things, and I didn't want to leave my brother. Where's your mom? Asks Colin. I freeze, not sure how to respond. Here we are, love, beams the stout woman wearing a stained apron. She clatters a plate of eggs, toast, and a cup of tea in front of me. I'm Mrs. Tillsbury. I'm terribly sorry. Remind me of your name? Colin just shouted it, of course, but I have a horrible memory. Everything just leaks right out. It's Elizabeth, but if you don't mind, I prefer Lizzie. My gran says that's a nickname deserved for barmaids and axe murderers, but I quite like it. Colin laughs. Barmaids and axe murderers? His mother smiles. Well then, you'll fit in. You'll fit right in around here. So imagine you'll be having a poke around today. Yes, I'll be going up to the park, I tell her. Oh, the park, I almost forgot. Goodness, I'm always forgetting. Colin, we had a message from Miss Meager on Church Green near the park. The light in her loo is broken, and she'd be grateful if you could go have a look. And no need to fuss, Mr. Barrycloth. Your breakfast is coming. Don't burn the toast this time, he mutters. Mrs. Tillsbury swats a playful hand at him and shuttles back to the kitchen. Loo repair? Are you the plumber? I asked, digging into the eggs. More of an electrician. It was a hobby that became a vocation once I turned 15 and the war began. Colin looks longingly at the map in front of him. I'd much rather be flying a Spitfire with Simon. He folds up the map. An electrician. I imagine you have tools, then. Lots of them. Are you looking for something? I've done the silliest thing. I've lost the key to my calendar diary. Calendar diary? How posh. Oh, no, it's nothing like that. Grant's house in Cleveland. Yes, I imagine that's posh, possibly to the extent of being vulgar. And her constant attempts to play matchmaker are also vulgar. But I'd say a calendar diary is more practical than posh. Your Gran, she sounds like she's lost the plot. There's a war going on, and the Germans are coming, and she's playing matchmaker? Colin gives a snort and rolls his eyes. To be honest, the way Colin describes it, it does sound a bit ridiculous. She's the only Gran I've got. Besides, without a dash of ridiculous, a person is usually very boring. Colin considers the comment as I finish my breakfast. Ridiculous, huh? Never thought of it like that. But you might be right. My dead Uncle Hugh used to swallow a farthing coins. Said it was his revenge against his ulcers. Seemed ridiculous, but he was one of the most exciting people I've ever known. Colin is quite interesting. So, he says, you want me to pop that calendar lock? Chapter 16, Jacob. I step out of hut 6, squinting in the morning sun. It was another long night hunched over a table, staring at groups of letters on little slips of paper. Another failure overnight. Birds chirp in the trees. The fools, don't they know we're one day closer to being blown off the map? I duck into hut 2 for a cup of coffee. Their sail rolls on, offering some truly foul-smelling salted fish. I take a roll and stroll over to the lake. Nigel's down there. I spot the bowl of brown hair over the top of the weeds, the kids talking through the brush along the edge of the water, gazing down with great focus. He stops and bends over, lifts something and cradles it in front of his shirt, then continues to search. Pond takes Bishop, I say. I know, he says. He holds up a blue-green egg. Duck egg. Ever try 'em? I don't think so. My mom won't. Says she don't know where they've been. You look tired. I nod but say nothing. Nigel knows the rules. I don't talk about my work, and he doesn't ask. He finds 2 more eggs. We walk to the newspaper stand beside the mansion. A tilting wooden box with good old Tom's tooth behind the counter and his woolen sweater vest. As always, the man's knitting socks for the soldiers. Tooth reaches under the counter when he sees me, takes out a copy of the New York Herald Tribune. 3 days old, but my only lifeline to American baseball scores. Thank you, Mr. Tooth, I say, handing over 2 coppers. It's really good of you to bring this paper in for me. He nods and knits. I tuck the Tribune under my arm and glance at today's headlines in the London papers. Nazis advance across wide front. Hitler eyes quick victory. And below that, you will be told what to do if invasion comes. I turn to Nigel. Guess we better start watching the sky for nuns. You shouldn't joke, Jacob. I know. We continue under an archway into a wide courtyard. It's surrounded by brick cottages and the old horse stables, which are now used to park cars. There's a pigeon lost in the attic space above the garage. Mr. Skevington's van is parked out front. He's loading birds in cages into the back of his van. Coming out with me today, Nigel? He asks. Yes, sir, Nigel says. Just a minute. The old owners of Bletchley Park used to raise racing pigeons. When the war started, the army brought Mr. Skevington into the train, to train the birds as carrier pigeons. He takes them out to nearby parks, set them loose, and they find their way back here. He drives them farther and farther out each time. Eventually, you can take them hundreds of miles away, fly them to France behind enemy lines, and attach a message to their leg, and they'll find their way back home. No one knows how they do it. Nigel and I continue to his family's cottage. Very strange people working here, he says. All interesting people are strange, don't you think? They don't look where they're going, and they walk around saying things like, quite right, or no, that can't be, but there's no one else there. I laugh. He could be describing any one of us. And that man on the squeaky bicycle, Nigel says. Alan Turing? He sees the surprise on my face. I'm not supposed to know people's names, but you hear things. He rides around wearing a gas mask. That's for his hay fever, I say. He says it helps. Well, this morning he walked over to one of the huts that's being built, picked up a shovel and took it. Just took it and walked away. I say. He must need it for something. Like what? Nigel asks. Worth watching, anyway. We stop in front of Nigel's cottage. He goes in to drop off the duck eggs. I really need to get over to the mansion for my lecture. Now, if I can just think of something intelligent to say. Chapter 17. Lizzie. I set my dishes on the bar and follow Colin to the latched door beneath the stairs. Your tools are in the ale cupboard, I ask. It's not an ale cupboard. Colin quickly unlocks and opens the door. He steps aside and waves me in with a grand gesture. I peek through the doorway. Grand would say it's improper to go into a boy's room. Well, right now I'm not a lad. I'm a locksmith. This is my shop. Excellent point. I step into the small room and instantly lose my breath. A symphony of clicking, ticking, and talking surrounds me. The walls are covered, top to bottom, with shelves of all sizes, crowded with what appear to be radios, clocks, tubes, small motors, and every mechanical device you can imagine, and some you couldn't. Bundles of coiled wires hang scalloped from the ceiling. Beneath a mullioned window is a desk made of a door and two tree stumps. Colin turns on a lamp fashioned from a metal pipe and a round tobacco tin. It's incredibly cramped but incredibly organized, and Colin clearly favors less. The walls are covered with them. The handwritten roster next to me says Parts, Central Electricity, England, 2 Sparks, the Dynamo of Dixie, and Peerless Light Co., Chicago. I turn, and on the wall next to Colin's small cot of a bed, I see it. The war, maps marked with red string, RAF posters with images of planes and slogans like On to Victory and Air Crews Wanted. Astride Colin's bed is a framed photo. A young man in uniform has his arms slung around Colin. They're standing in front of a motorbike, smiling. He notices my gaze. That's Simon, he tells me as he fishes through a box on his desk. We built that motorbike from scratch. Took us 2 years. I nod, gazing around the room. Has Jacob been in here, I ask. Nah, he laughs. The sound drives some people barmy, especially my dad. I think it's lovely. It's like a mechanical forest. Yeah, puts me right to calm, says Colin. So you have that diary? He holds up a wire. It needs a key. No, it doesn't. A sly gleam appears in his eye. I hesitate, then retrieve a small leather book from my pocket. Colin leans over and without even touching the diary, inserts the wire and springs the lock. The cover peeks open and I see a photo of myself and Jacob as young children. Is that you? He asks, stepping in closer. I snap the book shut, and as if on cue, several cuckoos appear from intricately carved wooden clocks, announcing the hour from half past. There are so many I have to raise my voice. Thank you, I say, sliding the diary back into the pocket of my skirt. I better get to the park. I don't want to be late. I can take you up. I'm heading that way. I nod and try to act casual, but my mind is racing. What if the small book in my pocket has the answers I've been looking for? What if it leads me to Willa? Chapter 18. Jacob. The colonel's secretary leads me into an office on the mansion's second floor. Desk pushed to the wall, a few chairs, and a chalkboard on wheels. A small wooden case sits on the floor in the corner. Where to begin? Keep it simple, Welchman had said. Pick up a piece of chalk and copy from my notebook onto the chalkboard. GJLNS FYY FHP FYIFBS. I pull my pipe from a jacket pocket. It's actually my father's pipe, one of the few things I've got of his. I'm giving up trying to light the blasted thing. Okay, this is a cipher, I say, pacing the empty room, rehearsing, which is not the same thing as a code. In a code, a whole word or phrase is replaced by letters, numbers, or some other symbol. A cipher is different, seemingly simpler. In a cipher, one letter stands for another letter. Tap the bowl of the pipe on the chalkboard. This one's known as the Caesar shift, probably because the first cipher used in war, dating back to, you guessed it, Julius Caesar. To encipher a message with the Caesar shift, you simply shift each letter of your message down the alphabet some set number of places. For a Caesar shift of 1, A becomes B, B becomes C, and so on. For a shift of 2, A becomes C, B becomes D. Simple. And yet, if Caesar's enemy had intercepted such a message, they'd have no clue how to make any sense of it. This cipher was perfectly unbreakable. Until it wasn't. Can you see its weakness? I believe so. The voice startles me. The pipe drops from my hand and clatters on the floor. A woman stands in the doorway. She's around my age with two pencils sticking from a bun of reddish blonde hair. She takes the chalk from my hand and writes the solution to my cipher on the board. Begin attack at dawn. I nod to her, impressed. That was fast. I'm Beryl, she says, handing me the chalk. I think you dropped your pipe. A chap about the same age steps into the room, big ears and a boyish, let's get started grin. John, he says. Hello, I'm Jacob. I bend to retrieve the pipe. Have a seat. I've seen these two around Cambridge. Both are gifted mathematicians. They're waiting for me to say something worth hearing. So, right, the weakness of the Caesar shift. Tap the chalkboard. It's susceptible to brute force. That's to say, you can simply check every possible solution. There are only 25 Caesar shifts, since a shift of 26 gets you right back to where you started. Once people figured that out, the cipher was useless. That set off a 2,000-year war between makers and breakers of secret writing, a twisting path that leads to this park, right here to this room. That was rather good. John and Beryl leaned forward. Code makers came up with more and more complex ways to substitute one letter for another, but they always left patterns, clues for the code breakers to hunt down. Meanwhile, technology changed. Telegraph, and then the big one, radio. Communication at the speed of light, but at a cost. Anyone can grab radio waves from the air. Code breakers kept their lead all through the Great War and into the 1920s. That's when I mean British intelligence and the French and Poles too, we started intercepting German radio messages that were baffling. No clues in the language, no mathematical patterns, just a mix of letters, impervious to attack by any known strategies. Finally, the code makers had retaken the lead. I stepped to the corner and lifted the wooden case, heavy for its size. There was only one logical explanation. The Germans had begun using machine to generate ciphers. I set the case on the desk. Here it is. Beryl and John gather around as I lift the lid. Inside is a black metal device, the size and shape of a typewriter. Meet your enemy, I tell my students. Enigma. Chapter 19. Jacob. Well, I say, what do you think? Well, they're still looking over the Enigma, trying to get their heads around the fact that this obscure contraption may determine the outcome of the war. Beautiful in its way, says John. He's got an Irish accent. Elegant. You think so, Beryl asks? I was going to say sinister. I'm with Beryl. Every time I look at the Enigma, I see Nazis marching. I see Hitler with that toothbrush mustache, hair flopping in his eyes, ranting and raving. It's quite irrational. The thing is a collection of keys and wires and light bulbs powered by a battery. A mindless machine. Enigma looks like a typewriter at first glance. It's got a 26-letter keyboard, but there's no place for paper. Instead, above the keys is a lampboard. 26 round windows, each with a letter, arranged in the same order as the keyboard. I press D on the keyboard. The L lights up on the lampboard. Press E, W lights up. This is all Enigma does, I say. It's nothing more than a clever way of turning one letter into another. I open the front of the machine. Inside sit 3 metal rotors. I pull one out and hold it up. The little wheel is marked on its outside rim with the letters A through Z. Each of these rotors is filled with cross wiring. Press a letter on the keyboard, say an A, and electrical current enters the rotor as an A, but exits as a different letter, say a J. The current enters the second rotor as a J and exits as, say, a Y. It enters the third rotor as a Y and changes again, say, to an H. I put the rotor back in place, and each time you press the letter on the keyboard, at least one of the rotors moves. The office door opens. The colonel steps in, Raptor's head in a tailored suit. He shuts the door behind him, sits on the table in the corner, gives me a go-on gesture. So, the operator types in the German message and different letters light up on the lampboard. That's the enciphered message, then gets sent by radio and Morse code. The receiver sets up his Enigma exactly the same way as the sender. He types in the gibberish, and letter by letter, the original German lights up on the lampboard. Brilliant, John says, then adds, glancing at the colonel. Sorry, sir, but I mean credit where credit is due. I quite agree, the colonel says. Continue, Novus. Well, we intercept German radio messages at listing posts. Motorcycle couriers bring stacks of messages here all day and night, but we can't read them because we don't know how the operator set up his machine, Beryl says. I nod. It's a maths problem. I toss Beryl a piece of chalk. Enigma comes with 5 different rotors, each with unique writing. 3 rotors are used at any time, in any order. So that means there are, Beryl writes on the chalkboard, 60. Right, I say. 60 possible rotor combinations. Each rotor can start in one of 26 positions, so that's 26 cubed. Beryl writes, 17,576. Yes, thanks, I say. Of course, you've got to multiply that by 60 rotor combinations, which is, I stop to check my notes, Beryl writes, 1,054,560. The colonel chuckles. Right, I say. 1 million plus ways to set up the machine. But if we had an army of cipher clerks, each checking one setting every minute, we could brute force the solution in a day or so. The Germans knew this. They added more layers of complexity. Each rotor has a ring setting, a movable notch that shifts its internal wiring. There's also the plug board. Open a flap at the front of the machine. Behind the flap is a set of 26 holes, each marked with a letter. Black cables snake between many of the holes. One end of the cable is plugged into any letter, and the other end can be plugged into any other letter. Standard procedure is to swap 10 pairs of letters. By this point, the numbers are truly fiendish. How many ways can an Enigma operator set up their machine, may I? Beryl hands me the chalk. I write 158, 962, 555, 217, 826, 360, 000. John lets out a long groan. Beryl wipes chalk on her skirt. I remember the feeling as well when I first met Enigma. I've still got it. Overwhelmed by the machine's raw power. Terrified by it. Checking one a minute's no good anymore, John says. Beryl nods. To try them all, we need longer than the age of the universe. Look on the bright side, I say. Probability is we'd luck into the right answer in only half that time. Mathematician's humor, but no one's laughing. Chapter 20. Lizzie. Are you sure you don't mind walking me, I ask? Nah, I have to fix the Meagers, too. It's on the way to the park, says Colin. We exit the inn, and standing beneath a thatched roof is the scarecrow from the train station. He hovers within a globe of shadow, smoking. Lovely day, he greets us. Already quite warm, isn't it? Yes, but I'd rather be warm than cold, wouldn't you? I reply. He gives a quick nod and slips inside the inn. Who's that? Asks Colin. Some sort of security man. Does he stay at the inn? No, last night was his first time I've seen him. Colin kicks a stone across the dirt road, but it's nearly impossible to keep track of everyone who's coming and going. Colin grips his toolbox with one hand and gestures with the other. Beyond the railway is the brickworks. That's what you smell. There's some nice ponds down there if you know where to look. Just up from the railway bridge, you'll find a fish shop and the chemist. He points in the other direction down a narrow road clotted with stones. Down Victoria Street is Paris's sweet shop, but with the war rationing, Mr. Paris doesn't have much to offer. Neither does the butcher. Don't know how Mum manages a larder stock, but she does somehow. I nod, taking in the small village as we walk. Dry stone walls are perfumed with tumbles of pink roses. It's cozy, relaxing in a way that makes me feel like I can breathe deeper. But the balance of Willa's calendar diary against my leg is a constant distraction. Bletchley's nothing like London, but over the past year there's been a constant stream of people, explains Colin. Every home in the village is billeting someone who works at the park. An odd combination of folks from all parts, even as far as Edinburgh and Belfast. Can't really figure out the common thread. Girls in pearls, chess players, antiquarian booksellers, intellectual toffs like your brother. Lots of people and all working strange hours. Is there a library? Yes, at Elmer School, but that's part of the park now. He passes the toolbox to his other hand. With the chaos of the war, I haven't seen much of my old schoolmates. You're the first person near my age who's come to the inn. And to sadness lingers around the statement. Well, I'll be your friend. I'm very good at making friends, and I'm confident I'll find a few more for us. Colin walks, looking at a tree instead of me. Last night you mentioned that you were straightforward. Yes, I prefer being straightforward and prefer others be straightforward with me. It reduces the space between people, saves time. All right, I'll have a go. He begins slowly. This morning, when I asked about your mom, you looked relieved that my question was interrupted. Am I right? Oh my, Colin is very good at being straightforward. Yes, perceptive of you to notice. I reply, I've been lied to regarding her whereabouts. I look to Colin. It hurts to be lied to, of course. He nods. Yeah, it does. And now if I may continue our straightforward exchange, I've noticed a tiny hitch in your step which tells me that your age may not be your only hurdle in becoming a soldier. Colin says nothing, just stares at the street. We pass a long line of terraced row houses. A train whistle sounds in the distance, and suddenly the sour smell of the brickworks gives way to the scent of freshly cut grass. I'm sorry, Colin, too straightforward?
No, he shrugs. Well, maybe. Broken leg didn't heal right. Didn't imagine you noticed. Most don't. Friends would, just like you noticed my expression at the table this morning. But now that we've been straightforward, things are out in the open and there's no awkwardness. Isn't that a relief? A small smile pulls at the corner of his mouth. Yeah, I guess it is. We walk in silence, making our way up a rutted slope towards the entrance of the park. The entire perimeter is bordered by a thick band of trees, obscuring any possible view. As if the trees weren't an adequate barrier, a metal fence surrounds the approach, decorated with rolls of barbed wire. Goodness, I hadn't seen any of that in the dark. What are they protecting behind the fence, or hiding? A tingling curiosity stirs within me. A military sentry stands guard at the gate. Pass card, please. Oh, I don't have a pass. I'm Elizabeth Novus, and I was told to report to Commander Bradley this morning. I imagine he'll give me a pass and whatever else I need. What might I need? I have no idea why I've been summoned here this morning. It's most inconvenient. I have an investigation to conduct. The sentry instructs me to wait while he makes a call. I look to peek through the gates. Well, looks like a lovely setting, I say. 55 acres used to belong to the Land family, says Colin. When I was little, I'd climb the trees to spy. There's a hedge maze on the side of the property. A maze? Have you been through it, I ask? No, always wanted to, though. The Leans were pretty posh. There were house parties on the lawn, hunters in the stable, chauffeurs, a fancy butler who carried trays of drinks, and dozens of other servants. Mom said Lady Leon had her own French maid. It's a bit dingy now in the houses of an army of mice, but it's not as bad as they say. The way people describe it in the pub at Mutton, it's as if they find it offensive or something. Provincial pile, a maudlin monstrosity, they call it. An overuse of alliteration, I nod. Well, now there's an overuse of security. I've been inside a bunch of times, did a lot of repair work when they were trying to sell the place, and when it sold, everything went hush-hush. Interesting. I look up at the thick barbed wire. What's so hush-hush? I don't know. I was told my services were no longer needed, and only those with special passes could get in. Guess I'm not the special pass sort. It's rubbish. He gives a small sigh. Well, I better be off to fix that light in the Meagher's loo. Colin, your services are needed. Perhaps you can help me find something I'm looking for. Sure, what's that? He replies. A magnifying glass and a good hiding place. My voice dims, but keep it just between us friends, of course. Of course. Colin adjusts his gray cap, revealing his tanned face. A spark of mischief glimmers in his eyes. You up to some trouble, Lizzie? Not exactly sure what I'm up to, I tell him. And at that moment, a guard opens the gate. A slim man with dark hair pedals slowly by us on a dilapidated bicycle. He wears scuffed shoes and a striped necktie as a belt. Strapped across his handlebars is a rusty shovel. He turns, glancing briefly at us, and it feels as if the scene drops into slow motion. His face is undecipherable. It's covered by a green rubber gas mask. I look from Colin to the thick metal gate. No, I have no idea what I'm up to. Chapter 21. I'm not sure how long we've been standing here goggling at the 21-digit monster on the chalkboard. The colonel raps his knuckles on the table, breaking the spell. The thing is, it can't be done, he tells us. We were reading some Enigma messages early in the war. That's right, I say, but the Germans added new procedures, new complications, just as they launched their attack in Western Europe. Now we're shut out again. And the clock's ticking, the colonel adds. John touches the side of the Enigma machine. Where do we get this? From Polish code breakers, the colonel says. They were working on the Enigma before the war. I've heard of the Polish team, but don't know much about what they did or what happened to them when the Germans invaded. I look to the colonel. Enough history, he says, checking his watch. Show them Dilly's idea. By Jove, give them some hope. And he's out of the door. Right, I say. Hope. Hope would be nice, John says. Well, I say, we suspect Enigma is unbreakable. You're not helping, Beryl says. I laugh. Unbreakable if used perfectly. But there are thousands of these machines out there, which means thousands of Enigma operators. They could be our age, even younger. Some brighter than others. They make mistakes, and this might be our way in. I gesture for John to sit in the chair in front of the Enigma. You're the operator, I say. You come on duty at midnight. That's when operators change the settings on their machines. Once a month, they all get the same sheet, which tells them which rotors to use each day and in what order, which ring settings and plugboard settings, so you set up your machine. Then what, John asked. Then you wait. You wait for someone to hand you a message to encipher. At that point, you'll need to pick a starting position and message key, 6 letters. Why 6, John asks. I'll get to that, I say. Meanwhile, you're bored. You're scared. You're homesick. You start dreaming of a girl back home. The lovely Ingrid. The beautiful Bertha. Beryl suggests. Bertha works, I say. 6 letters. Picture it. You and Bertha enjoy a picnic in the forest. You're swimming in a blue-green lake. I slam the desk with my open hand. John jumps. The fantasy shatters. I say, You're handed a message, ordered to send it. Your machine is already set up according to the monthly sheet, but you still have to pick 6 letters. Now, right now, what's the first thing that pops into your head? John roars, Bertha! Right, I say. So, spin the rotors to BER. John turns the Enigma rotors until the letters BER show in the tiny windows at the top of the machine. That's your starting position, I say. Now type in the THA. That's your message key. He does. The letters KLW light up the lampboard. I erase the big number from the chalkboard and write BRKLW. You put those 6 letters on the top line of your message. It's called the preamble. The operator who receives the message has got his Enigma set up according to the monthly sheet. He sets rotors to BER and types in KLW. What lights up on his lampboard? THA, Beryl says. Amazing how quick her mind is. Yes, I say. The receiver then moves his rotors to THA and he can begin to decipher the message. Beryl is nodding, but we can't do the same. We see BER, KLW in the message preamble. But if we set our machine to BER and type in KLW, we don't get THA because we don't know the machine's other settings, John says. Exactly, I say, and we can't know them. So long as our operators pick random sets of 6 letters, but what if they don't? Say we intercept a message. We see BER, KLW in the preamble. What does that tell us? We know the operator started at BER, Beryl says, and typed in something to get KLW. But what, I ask? We can't know unless operators are using names or 6-letter words. In that case, the first 3 letters are a clue to the identity of the second 3. If we see BER, KLW in the preamble, we can guess that KLW might be deciphered as THA. And if we're right, we've got the message key. Beryl shakes her head amazed. Operators really do this? Most don't, I say, but some do. It's a mistake that turns Enigma messages into basic word puzzles. We've seen preambles with hit and then 3 random letters. Say you see these letters in preamble. How would you decipher the second 3-letter group? I write on the chalkboard, HITKSO. LER, Beryl practically sings, Hitler. Then silence. Not the done thing to shout the name with glee. Right, I continue. Some operators use swear words or obvious patterns on the keyboard like QWEASD, the first 3 letters on the top 2 rows. Dilly Knox calls these sort of mistakes sillies. Named for this one lazy chap who sets his machine to CILLIE over and over. His girlfriend's name, we reckon. My students are quiet for a moment, taking in the information. So there's hope, I say. They make mistakes. Finding sillies gets us part way in the door, but only part way. There's still so many settings we don't know. Fine, Beryl says. We need another piece of the puzzle. Are there other clues in the messages, John asks. What else are they giving away? Good questions, I say. Let's find the answers.
Chapter 22, Lizzie. The guard waves me through the gate, and I proceed through a thick barrier of trees onto a crunching gravel drive. In the daylight, I can see that it is, indeed, a lovely setting. And not just a setting, it's a small village unto itself. Lush English gardens pop with color across an expanse of acreage. A shimmering lake decorates the center of the property, fringed with more greenery. I make my way farther into the park, and rhythmic pulsing emerges. The serenity of the honey-colored cottages in Bletchley gives way to the energy of a London train station. Rumbling motorcycles whiz about the drive, construction crews haul supplies, while women in skirts wheel laundry carts of paper between bald wooden huts. Others dash to and fro, carrying large brown envelopes. Groups of men congregate in conference, smoking and whispering on the lawns. I shield my eyes, squinting into the distance. The grounds extend into endless meadows dotted with more huts and construction. Why is Colin not allowed inside, I wonder? And just as I ponder the question, my breath pulls back with a gasp. The mansion stands before me in the distance, a hulking labyrinth of a manor, punctuated with chimneys of all shapes and sizes. Sturdy red bricks adjoin, pale stone accented by ornamental flourishes. Across the face of the house are countless windows and white wooden frames. I spot porches, a conservatory, and an odd copper dome wedged in on the side. It's the type of estate that must be full of hidden doorways and secret passages. Sprawl of a mansion whose stairs creak and speak while the windows rattle on the wind. It's not maudlin, it's marvelous. I pause, thinking of my school studies. Victorian Gothic combined with Tudor, with dashes of Baroque. An architectural collage of sorts, but this can't be a military installation. Very few are wearing uniforms, so what on earth is going on here? A man in a tweed suit stands alone and sock-footed in the grass. His eyes are closed and his face lifts toward the sun. He wears an apricot bow tie, which by my estimation makes him very approachable. "Excuse me, sir." His eyes slowly open and his face lowers to mine. "Could you tell me where I might find Commander Bradley?" "Administration, first floor of the mansion." He slowly closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and returns his face to the sun. Positioned at the entry archway of the mansion are two stone griffins. I imagine a vicious dog with wings. They're quite sinister and would certainly frighten off ghosts or thieves. I give them a cheery greeting and pass through the door. The light changes, pulling instantly into shadow. The Leon family clearly favored their dark wood paneling. The walls and ceiling are covered with it. A woman carrying a stack of folders notices me. "May I help you, dear?" "Yes, please. I'm looking for Commander Bradley." She points to an alcove on the left. He stepped away, but will return shortly. I make my way into a large room, which is lighter, but not exactly cheerful. A broad desk sits in front of a tall, draped windows. A cigarette glows from an ashtray crowded with butts, and smoke twists and climbs toward the chipped ceiling. An unattended cigarette, very irresponsible. And I do believe Grant's reports that tobacco is unhealthy. I quickly put it out. The desk contains folders, clipboards, a small lamp, and something else. A telephone. I throw a quick glance over my shoulder. Could I? He left the cigarette burning, so he won't be gone long. I pick up the headset. And how do phones work here? Is the operator used to hearing a man's voice from this extension? Wait, would making a call violate the Secrets Act? There's no time to think because the operator's on the line. I do my best imitation of Jacob's voice. Governor 4111, please. A series of clicks and the line is ringing. Office of the American Embassy. Good morning. Olivia McQuarters, please. I suddenly hear a man's voice coming from the hall, then footsteps on the hardwood floors. I'll connect to you, says the embassy operator. I quickly hang up and spin around. Within a fraction of a second, a tall, elegant gentleman enters the room. My mind is exploding with thoughts. I asked for Olivia. The operator said she would connect me. That means Olivia is at the embassy in London. Hello, says the commander, eyeing my proximity to his desk. I didn't see you come in. Good morning, Commander. I'm Elizabeth. My brother is Jacob Novus, and I was told to report to you. Ah, yes. Hello, Elizabeth. He takes a seat and scans a register in front of him. The colonel felt you'd be well suited to assist as a messenger. Are you generally fit? Oh dear, he sounds like Gran. The position requires a bit of stamina, says the commander. You'll carry messages between the various departments, and it often calls for a swift stride. You'll be stationed in the center of the park. Excuse me, Commander? Position? Stationed? Yes, you're being put to work, he says. My eyes blink with disbelief. What is he talking about? Oh, there must be some mistake. I can't work here. I have some very important work of my own that I'm pursuing, but thank you for the invitation. I give a polite smile. The commander's brow narrows. These are orders, Miss Novus, not an invitation. When summoned, you'll be given a large sealed envelope and instructed where to deliver it. You must never open the envelope, ask about its contents, or make stops during delivery. Is that clear? Oh my, he's entirely serious. But how on earth can I pursue my investigation if I'm saddled with work in this peculiar mansion? It's most inconvenient. I said, is that clear, Miss Novus? There's a war going on, and we all must do our part. Yes, Commander. The commander leans to look past me. Is that the Morning Post, Marion? Yes, sir. A diminutive girl appears and sets a bundle of envelopes on the desk. She has black hair, moon-pale skin, and eyes so large that they give the appearance of a doll, the kind that never blinks. Adorable. Marion, this is Elizabeth. She's about your age, and like you, she'll be contributing because she has a family association with those who work here. Elizabeth will be starting today as a messenger. Please see that she gets a brief overview of the property and then direct her to the messenger stand at the center of the park. He turns to me. Now, Elizabeth, if you'd like to repeat the instructions I gave you, I will be summoned. I will be given a large sealed envelope and told where to deliver it. I will not open the envelope nor ask about its contents, and I will deliver it directly without making any stops. Very good. Your brother said you were sharp. Jacob said I was sharp? Marion looks to me, impressed. He hands across a small card. This is your pass into the park. Guard it carefully and never, ever show it to anyone. Very well, ladies, that is all, says the commander. He reaches for a cigarette, but is quickly confused by the smashed and bent end. Chapter 23. Lizzie. Marion is petite, but has a purposeful stride. Her walk is akin to a march. We exit the office, and she speaks in a hurried whisper. I think you impressed him. He's very kind, but expects perfection. Perfection? But perfection is boring and forgettable. It's the imperfections that I find interesting. Goodness, you sound so adult. Are you a philosopher, Elizabeth? I prefer Lizzie, if that's all right with you. And heavens no, I'm not a philosopher. I just have the awful habit of speaking whatever pops into my head. I think it's because I'm half American. Marion's eyes flash. You're half American? I am, but I do hope that won't prevent us from being friends. You seem like a nice girl, Marion. Oh, her mouth forms a perfect circle. Don't mind. I've just never met anyone who's half American. My older sister lives in America, and I'm desperate to join her. Really? Where is she? Lone Cabbage, in a state called Florida. Oh my, how wonderfully exotic. Yes, she reports there are alligators. Our parents are English, Jewish, you see. They teach in a music conservatory in Austria. They insisted we evacuate from Vienna. There were no alligators there. No, I imagine not. My sister was sent to a distant cousin in Florida. I was sent to Bletchley to live with a family friend. My parents know a composer doing some work here at the park. A composer? Colin had said there were girls in pearls, chess players, intellectuals, and mathematicians like Jacob working at the park. And a music composer? What on earth is going on here? We arrive at the front entrance of the mansion and pause near the griffins. I turned to Marion. Well, I was supposed to be in America at this very moment, in the cultural capital of Cleveland, but I skipped my ship, you see, and so now I'm here. And the Germans at our door. We do need to build our own circles of friendship to get through all of this, don't we, Marion? I'll introduce you to my new friend, Colin. He's quite smart and understands the nature of imperfection. Colin, the attractive boy who repairs things? Oh, do you find him attractive, I ask? No, I don't. She looks at me, serious. I find Winston Churchill attractive, though. Very attractive. Yeah, strong orators are appealing, aren't they? Did you know that Churchill's mother was born in America, says Marion? And Prime Minister Churchill is more than just a talented speaker. Her fists clench. He's courageous and ready to destroy Hitler. Marion's face suddenly pinches with anger. The small girl has a large temper. I pat her shoulder. Oh my, I didn't mean to upset you. One thing my gran is correct about. Blood pressure is a silent enemy. Let's start over. I suggest we establish a tradition of petting these griffins. The griffins? Oh no, Lizzie. You mustn't. They're wicked. Only to an invader. If we pet them, we'll create a rapport, and they'll become our friends. I stroke the cold stone ears of the statue. Marion cringes. How easily Americans make friends, she whispers. But going to America, it's my greatest dream. I wish it were mine. Now, Marion, before we begin the orientation that Commander Bradley mentioned, perhaps you can explain a bit about the communication system here. The phones in the mansion, are the exchanges anonymous, similar to the anonymous addresses in London they've given me? Marion claps her hands over her ears. She takes a deep breath and pulls me forward by the sleeve. I didn't hear that, Lizzie. You didn't say that. I know nothing and neither do you. Isn't that right? This tiny wisp of a girl is fiercely strong. Isn't that right? She repeats. Yes, Marion, I reply. I know nothing. But that's a lie, because I do. I know this. I am Elizabeth Lizzie Novus. Despite my good intentions, I often blunder, misstep, and stumble. And to be perfectly straightforward, let's state the obvious. I am the candidate most likely to violate the Official Secrets Act, and I will be convicted of treason when I do.